Isabel, let's just talk about Glastonbury for a few more minutes and the implications of what happened. If Bob Vylan had stood up there and shouted, screamed at the audience, "Death, death to the Muslim church," or "Death, death to black people," how quickly do you think the Avon and Somerset police would have been down on him like a ton of bricks? I think a lot quicker than 24 hours. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think immediately, and that's the point here. You know, doubtless his apologists will claim that this was sort of some kind of poetic thing, but actually I think it goes far more broad than this. I mean, I listened to more of the performance than I would like to have heard, frankly.
He's not very good, is he, old Bob?
There was a whole
He's
load
not as good as Bob Dylan, I don't think.
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to. People are still going to be talking about this guy in decades to come. But I heard him ranting about people who say they want their country back. Now, that is actually a lot of our listeners, and frankly, the way that you and I often feel. You know, we want our country back, and that can mean all sorts of things. But the way he was shouting about people with those feelings in an incredibly confrontational way, expletive-ridden response to that, felt to me like a very, very divisive thing to be yelling from a platform at Glastonbury. In short, I think this guy massively abused a very, very privileged position up there on a stage at Glastonbury to spread some pretty divisive and deeply unpleasant stuff, which went well beyond what he had to say about the IDF and what he had to say about from the river to the sea. And it may or may not have been criminal or illegal or whatever. But why are we kind of glorifying and celebrating someone who is rapping these themes? It really tells you a lot about how angry and divided and bitter our society has become.
Yeah, and he's just fanning those flames because he thinks it's good for his career. But he screwed his career up because the Americans immediately revoked his visa, so the Bob Vylan tour of America won't happen now. And looks like he's going to get his collar felt. The Avon and Somerset police have now launched a criminal investigation. They kind of have to. So we'll see where the legal system takes Mr. Robinson Foster Robinson, is it? What's his name? So we'll see what happens. By the way, he was born and raised on the mean streets of Brixton. No, not Brixton. Sorry, Ipswich. That's right. Sorry, I got it wrong there. This guy. He's about as counterculture as Mr. Blobby. What a joke. But this is more serious, I think, is the BBC. The BBC is now saying Tim was there for a few hours. He was made aware during the time he was there of what had been said on stage, as in death, death to the IDF. He intervened to make sure the performance was not available on demand. That's on the iPlayer. But he was very clear about that. Pulling the live stream brings certain technical challenges. With hindsight, we would have taken it down. Now, that is not an official quote. I'm just trying to find... BBC said... No, well, hang on a second. I think this is an official quote. The BBC has said, with hindsight, we should have pulled the stream during the performance. So, OK, so what we've got here is an admission that, if this chronology is correct, that this guy, the Director General, was on site. He made a decision about Bob Vylan, and the BBC is now saying, with hindsight, that was wrong. That was a wrong decision. Well, you know, how many more times are we going to let this guy, Tim Davie, make wrong decisions? The BBC, it seems to be, you know, everybody at the BBC just operates with impunity. No matter what they do, they never get fired. Well, I think that this guy, Davie, he may have crossed the line this time. What's your feelings?
Well, it definitely appears to be building this controversy rather than the heat going out of it. I mean, it's clearly a lot of political pressure now, various voices in senior positions calling for his resignation. And I think I think he is in quite a difficult position. I mean, I get that pulling the live stream would have caused what they call technical difficulties, but it would also have been a very, very firm statement that the BBC is not the place to platform those kinds of views. And that's pretty important given how much evidence there has been since October the 7th of bias in the BBC of this nature. The Jewish community feels incredibly let down by all sorts of communities and institutions, the BBC being one of them, for persistent apparent bias in their reporting of the conflict. And by the way, the whole thing is so ironic, isn't it, that this hideous individual was spewing this bile at a music festival when it was precisely that set of circumstances, a music festival, and the terrorism at that event in Israel that sparked this whole thing in the first place.
Yeah, you got this statement now. The story I'm reading is a sort of mixture of a BBC source and official statements. The official statement, this is a statement about what the Director General decided at Glastonbury, on the site at Glastonbury. They're saying the performance was part of a live stream on the Westholt stage on BBC iPlayer. The judgment on Saturday to issue a warning on stream while screaming online was in line with our editorial guidelines. In addition to that, the team were dealing with a live situation, but with hindsight, we should have pulled the stream during the performance. We regret that this did not happen. In the light of this weekend, we will look at our guidance around live events so we can be sure teams are clear on when it is acceptable to keep output on air. Well, they kept the output on air, according to this story, because the supreme leader of the BBC, the Director General, said so. So they're saying he made the wrong call. They're saying this in a BBC statement, that the boss got it wrong. Well, is nothing going to happen to him for this catastrophic decision, allowing an illegal performance to unfold before the eyes of millions of TV viewers?
Well, there's another point here, and it's quite an important one, which is the most cursory glance at this band's back catalogue, the most cursory glance at the lyrics of their previous hits, insofar as they've been big hits, would show red flags absolutely everywhere. I mean, they've got a track record of trying to attract attention by saying horrible things. You know, they were shouting about killing the Queen. They were shouting about exhuming Thatcher's body. Let's all go and dig up Maggie's grave. That kind of thing. So why was there no due diligence done? I mean, quite clearly, with that track record, it was very unlikely that live streaming his set was going to end in anything other than disaster.
And also, just finally, the organisers themselves, the Eavis family, they said, oh, well, Bob Vylan completely crossed the line. We're so shocked about this. I mean, come on. Look what they've created down at Worthy Farm there. It's a massive Palestine flag flying. That's all it is. In fact, you look around, there were quite a few Iranian flags as well. So they've, Michael Eavis, the old boss who started Glastonbury all those years ago, was it back in the late 60s or something, he said of this event, this festival, if you don't like our politics, go elsewhere. So in other words, they've turned Glastonbury into this massive pro-Palestine, pro-Iran fanaticism. And then when you get some dork like this bloke from Bob Vylan comes on and says, death, death to the IDF, the organisers go, oh, we're so shocked. Well, no, you can't get away with that. They've got some responsibility. They've got questions to answer as well, possibly by the police, I would have thought. I mean, look at it. Look at it. You think you're in Gaza, there's so many Palestine flags.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. I've never been to Glastonbury, and after this, I was never going to anyway. But I can't imagine anything more horrendous than being amongst those kinds of people. what can you say? I mean, it's just awful to see all those flags.
Yeah, it's the organisers. The next time they've got to do something about this. They can't turn it into this kind of counterculture sixth form
is it music
revolution.
Or is it politics? Which is it?
Yeah, they've got to do something about this. They created this. They created this atmosphere.